The Chicago Cubs were off today. There was no game for the team, so they remain pat in first place of the NL Central. However, we have to talk about the fact that the Chicago Cubs are getting ready to begin an easier part of their schedule to begin the month of July, and then also we have to look at the trade deadline because it's something the Chicago Cubs must win. Welcome in, Chicago Cubs Central family. Guys, welcome into another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. I'm your host, Mike Jones. This is your first time. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Remember, you have an opportunity to be a part of the show. How do you be a part of the show? Well, you can leave me a voicemail at 217-816-5498, or you can write me at cubsbaseball1992 at gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I appreciate each and every last one of you. If this is your first time, go ahead and do me a favor. If you want the Chicago Cubs to succeed this season, if you want the Chicago Cubs to win the Central Division, if you want the Chicago Cubs to win, hopefully, the whole National League, because they got the power, they got the speed. That's right. I need you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, guys. So, today's episode, we will preview the Cubs Guardian series as a whole, and it's one that the Chicago Cubs need to look to dominate. We talked yesterday on yesterday's episode about the fact that the Chicago Cubs must dominate the month of July, and I did mean that in the sense of dominating the competition, in a sense of playing the competition. The competition you're going to be playing. We looked at the schedule for the Chicago Cubs. It actually seems quite light outside of series is against the Kansas City Royals and the New York Yankees, as well as coming off of All-Star break, facing off against the Boston Red Sox. But outside of that, I mean, like I said, you're going to see the Cardinals once, you're going to see the Brewers once. That's it. Outside of that, everybody else looks pretty much beatable. And the Chicago Cubs can help themselves out too. But there's one important aspect that I wanted to talk about with you on today's episode: the trade deadline. So the thing I've thought about within myself, and this is something that's come up and something that I've been thinking about, and I want to do an episode on it, is the need for the Chicago Cubs to put themselves back at the forefront of the division. And as of right now, like I said, they are still in the first place in the division. But at the same time, you see the Cardinals creeping up. You feel the Brewers having success. You see them creeping up. The Reds aren't too crazily far behind. There is still time for all three of those clubs to catch up to the Chicago Cubs. However, the Chicago Cubs can do themselves major favors by winning the trade deadline. Now, it's important that you win the trade deadline for multiple reasons. Why? Reason number one, you want to win the trade deadline is because what? You not only want to compete in the Central Division, you want to keep up in the National League as a whole. And for me, in order for the Chicago Cubs to do that, you have to add more. The Chicago Cubs do have a good foundation. Kyle Tucker mentioned it a couple of days ago in an interview when they were playing against the Astros. He said that the Chicago Cubs have laid a great foundation to not only see success this season, but to see success in seasons ahead. And I would agree, Jed Hoyer has done a masterful job of adding pieces. You look at somebody like a Matthew Boyd. You look at adding Kyle Tucker. You look at the things that they did with Colin Ray up outside of the month of June. And you can say to yourself, literally, the Chicago Cubs did a masterful job. Jed Hoyer did a masterful job of winning the first half of the season to this point. However, the second half of the season is almost underway and ready to begin. You do got to finish out a couple of more series here. Put yourself in position to win probably around 55 to 60 games heading into the All-Star break potentially. So the Chicago Cubs are in a very good spot. However, what you don't want to have happen is the Brewers add on, the Cardinals add on, and you stand pat. To me, that is the worst case scenario for the Chicago Cubs. When you look at that, you look at the fact that you could say that the Chicago Cubs are punting the season or resting on their laurels, or Jed feels that he's done enough in order for them to win the division. I would even venture to tell you that if you went and talk to manager Craig Counsell, he would tell you that the Chicago Cubs have not done enough to feel comfortable or confident enough that they absolutely far and away are going to win the division. But you need to go ahead and you need to put yourself out there as the standout in the division. That is the first step in winning this division. The Chicago Cubs need to not only add relief pitching. The Chicago Cubs not only need to look at potentially adding another power slugger, preferably third base, or if you are able to get somebody at maybe first base, move Michael Busch over to play third base. And the Chicago Cubs need to add better bench pieces. I'm going to read you off the stats right now of the bench players for the Chicago Cubs. John Birdie, his slash line is 202, 256, 226, a 40 WRC plus, and a negative 0.3 WAR. Vidal Brujan, his slash line is 166, 188, 226, 13 WRC plus, and a negative 0.2 WAR. Justin Turner, 202, 289, 262, 61 WRC plus, a negative 0.3 WAR. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done. And I feel as though Craig intentionally, especially in Sunday's game, played Vidal Brujan, played Justin Turner, played John Birdie to show Jed Hoyer that the Chicago Cubs need more. You need more coming off your bench. These guys can be DFA'd. I appreciate Vidal Brujan's speed. I appreciate the fact that John Birdie could play second and third. I appreciate the fact that Justin Turner has been a mentor to Pete Crow Armstrong. I appreciate that he's well-liked in the clubhouse. But if the Chicago Cubs look to actually want to compete, if the Chicago Cubs really want to win the National League, if the Chicago Cubs really want a shot at winning the World Series, you're going to have better pieces coming off your bench. You're going to want to have better pieces coming off your bench. You want to be able to have guys that can actually come in and contribute. You know, I mean, and here's the thought process behind things. If I'm being quite honest with you, you could probably look at some of your guys that are in AAA and even maybe give them a shot versus what these guys have been putting out. Give the Jaguar a shot. Give Owen Casey a shot. Why not? Especially if you don't end up having to trade all of those guys. Why not give them a shot? Why not give them a chance or an opportunity to show you what they can do on the major league level, especially against some of these lower level teams? Games where your guys like Kyle Tucker, Ian Happ are going to carry you. Seiya Suzuki's going to carry you. You're going to be fine. But it also gives you a chance to put some of these guys in on the back end of those games, especially some of these that I think will end up being blowouts. And you can see what they have to offer. To me, it just makes sense to get a better bench. The Chicago Cubs need better. They need more. And, I mean, these three guys just have not cut the mustard. And I think Craig Counsell put them on full display against that Houston Astros team to show Jed Hoyer, hey, I need more. We need more if we're serious about this. I also look at the fact that the Chicago Cubs obviously need to add more bullpen pieces. I can appreciate what Caleb Thielbar has done. He has been immaculate. I can appreciate, what has happened with Daniel Palencia and how he has elevated his level of play. I can appreciate, all of the different pitchers that we have seen come through and play for the Chicago Cubs. But when I say add another piece from the bullpen, I'm talking about a strong back end arm. Hate him or love him. But Josh Hader, we saw him this weekend twice. Both games locked it down. No questions asked. No issues. I appreciate what Brazier has done. I can appreciate what Presley has done. I can appreciate what Brad Keller has done. I love what Caleb Tealbar has done. But you need that lockdown guy. That when you put him in, if you got one run, you ain't got to worry. And it ain't going to take 20 minutes for him to get the outs. It's going to be quick. It's going to be somebody that overpowers. And then last but not least, the Chicago Cubs cheaped out on Alex Bregman. They thought that Matt Shaw would be able to produce and give you a minuscule piece of what Alex Bregman could bring you. And the Chicago Cubs have paid dearly for it. Games that they should have won, they've lost. And not from a defensive standpoint. Matt Shaw defensively has been amazing. But Matt Shaw's bat is nowhere near ready for the majors. And it's shown. A half of a season is enough to know his bat just is not ready. Cam Smith's bat has been ready for the majors. And it has a lot of people scratching their heads, wondering just what the heck the Chicago Cubs did. Could they have traded Matt Shaw instead of Cam Smith? But you also got to remember that short porch, I think it's Edwards Wall or something like that, the Edwards balcony or whatever they call that thing over there, that stupid ballpark. A lot of his home runs came off over there. Same with Isaac Paredes. Who has 19 or 20 home runs now? But they all came off that short porch over there. So, I mean, woohoo, whoop-de-doo, but, hey, anybody can hit cheapies. I'm more curious what Cam Smith does outside of that ballpark. Definitely already know what Isaac Paredes is doing outside of that ballpark, and it ain't great. So in my eyes, in my heart of hearts, you look at somebody like a Bregman that wanted to be a Cub. You look at somebody like a Kirby Yates that wanted to be a Cub. Those lockdown guys that would have taken care of a lot of this stuff at the trade deadline for you and probably won you more games. Chicago Cubs could probably be close to 53, 54 wins right now had they had a Bregman and a Screwball. I'm sorry, not a Screwball. A Kirby Yates. You must win the trade deadline because you want to put yourself at the forefront and you want to make sure that the Cardinals and the Brewers stay in the rearview mirror. You want to be up against the Dodgers, up against, the likes of the Phillies. You want to be up against the teams like the Mets, the Padres, teams like that. That's where you want to be. You want to be in that upper echelon club. And right now they are 49-35. They are. They're going to probably get 50 to 50. By the end of the week, the Chicago Cubs could potentially have around 55 to 50, around 50, 55, probably 55 wins if they run the table and sweep both these series. Yeah, I think about 55, 56 wins, whatever. That's really good. Really, really good. However, what you want to see happen is you want to see yourself put those teams in the rearview mirror and help your case for being one of the best teams in baseball. And there's only one way to do that. And that's to add on more. That's to go get a legit third baseman that has some slug. And that's also to add a back end of the bullpen piece. And get some, and you got to go out and get you another starting pitcher. Chicago Cubs got work to do. Jed Hoyer has work to do. Remember, he's in the contract year too. It ain't just Kyle Tucker in the contract year. He's in the contract year also. But now let's turn our pages and look to the Chicago Cubs' next 3 upcoming games. First game is July 1st, Tuesday, going up against the Cleveland Guardians, who are 40-42. And Matthew Boyd will take the mound for the Chicago Cubs. At home, he has been amazing. Away from home, he's been good. So, like I said, he will be facing off against Gavin Williams. Matthew Boyd will be facing off against his old team, so you know he's going to want to come and bring his extra good stuff. And then after that, Shota Imanaga will take the ball Wednesday, and Shota will pitch Wednesday. He has a 4-2 record. And for the Guardians, it'll be Tanner Beebe who will be going for the Guardians. And yeah, we'll just have to see what happens with that. And then last but not least, on that Thursday, it'll be Cubs, it'll be Guardians, it'll be Cade Horton going up against Luis Ortiz. So yeah, man, Chicago Cubs have their work cut out for them. It'll be a fun week, hopefully a week where they can catch up and they can actually put themselves in place, in line to be at the head where they should be and continue to stay there. But yeah, man, that's my time. I appreciate all of you for checking out this video. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to Chicago Cubs Central. I appreciate you guys so much. And leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on what the Chicago Cubs must do to win the trade deadline? What are your feelings on the Chicago Cubs winning the trade deadline? We will grade the moves. We will do a trade deadline special. And yeah, like I said, man, we're going to talk about it all. So it will be definitely something to talk about. But I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you all for tuning in to Chicago Cubs Central, your #1 spot for all things.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.